I will be your facilitator today. I'm a certified Microsoft Customer Immersion Facilitator. So that's why you see this right here, the Microsoft Customer Immersion Experience. I'll tell you, this lab was really meant to be a way to talk about some of the latest improvements in the technology when it comes to the Microsoft space. Like Michael mentioned, we're not trying to be up here for an hour and a half with a PowerPoint to bore you all. We want to give you that hands-on demonstration where you can actually touch and feel Microsoft Teams as well. So that's our goal today. That's what we're going to be doing. Just one last reminder, this is the link that I sent. It'll go ahead and launch this demo environment right here on this black desktop. And this is where I'm going to go ahead and be showing you some of the things today. First thing I will mention, one of the things that I personally love about Teams is really just the flexibility. We have a lot of different ways to be able to access this application. Here inside of this remote desktop, we'll be able to see a couple of these. Number one, right, we've got our desktop application, which is this Teams icon. So go ahead and just double click here if you're inside of the persona, and it'll go ahead and open up and launch that Microsoft Teams application. That being said, I'm also going to be able to access my work environment here through my phone on my application, and I'm also going to be able to access it through the web online too. So a lot of things that really come here into the Microsoft 365 suite. That's why I personally, one of the main reasons I love Teams is just how flexible it is, how easy it is for me to get things done. Especially right now, as a lot of us are working remotely, there's a lot of other considerations there. It's just been a real blessing for our business. So I want to mention that. First thing I am going to do, though, is I'm going to go ahead and zoom for everybody here so that you guys can all see. If you wanted to do that on your end, let me go ahead and show you how you do that. So if you click on this face icon here in the top right of your screen, it's going to go ahead and open up a few options. We'll go through some other things here, but the first thing I will show you is the zoom icon. If you wanted to go ahead and zoom a little bit more, I'm going to go ahead and do this twice. So hopefully that's a little easier for everybody to see. All right, but I'm going to come back here to this face icon. This is obviously going to tell you who you are, right? In this case, whoever your demo persona is. In this case, I'm Megan Bowen. This is going to tell you who you are. But what I want you to pay attention to right away is this, what we call the availability sensor here inside of Microsoft Teams. One of my personal favorite tools here, specifically because, like I mentioned, if we're all working remotely, it's a phenomenal way for me to know who's available and who's free for me to be able to collaborate with. It's going to let me know, are they on Teams and they're not on a meeting, meaning they're available? It's a green check mark. Are they on Teams but they're on a meeting? That means they're busy or on Do Not Disturb. Or are they just completely off of the application? Right, those are the few options. You're going to be able to set that. It's going to manually sync with your calendar, so you don't have to worry about changing that yourself. But if you did want to go ahead and maybe you have some free time, but you wanted to just really focus and put this on Do Not Disturb, you do have the ability to do that yourself as well. Really cool, fundamental piece that I always like to share because I think it's important for everybody to understand. The other thing I'll just quickly, briefly mention here is this settings. So you see this gear icon that says settings. If you go ahead and you select this, reason I like to bring this up is just to make, the differentiation clear that this is where you're going to be able to change your own personal settings inside of this application. So if you wanted to manage your privacy settings, your notification settings, your devices, your calling, right? Those are all going to be your personal choices. You're going to be able to do that here through this settings icon. That being said, if you wanted to change company-wide policies, right, make those types of edits, you're going to have to do that through what's called the Teams admin portal. Okay, so for example, did you want to have the ability to work and collaborate with people outside of your organization? You're going to have to turn on what's called guest access, and that's all going to be done through the Teams admin center. I just want to give you an example of kind of the differences there. But again, if you wanted to make those changes, you have total right to do so. Okay, just want to do a quick little tour here as well. So you see there's a search bar. I always like to mention this because I think search bars get a bad rap. I don't know if you've ever used the Outlook search. It's gotten better over the years, but I know when it first came out, I was very frustrated with how it worked. I will tell you though, this Microsoft Teams search bar is going to be a very useful tool for you as an organization. Reason I say that, Teams is meant to be your all-in-one workspace. As we go through some of the things that we do today, you'll notice how many different features are possible, how many different things are available for you here to be able to do inside of Teams. And so given that, given that we're going to be messaging people, we're going to be storing files, we're going to be having our calendar, we're going to have calls, all this information, there's a lot of things that we can pull from. And so what's great about this is when you actually search for things, it's pulling from 3 different sets of information. And I'll show you how to do this. So go ahead in your search bar, search for whatever you like, sales, marketing, HR, maybe it's some type of conversation you were doing. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and search for marketing just to show you all an example so that you can see how this works. So I'm going to search for marketing. What you'll notice is, again, those 3 different sets of data it's going to be pulling this information from. So what you'll notice as well is that everything is going to be directly linked, right? Because this is all structured over the web. So for example, if I come here, it looks like Isaiah, I was talking about an international marketing campaign, right? This marketing keyword popped up. I was able to select it, easily get back to that conversation. So let's say, for example, you're having a topic, a conversation about a marketing, discussion with one of your coworkers, but you couldn't quite remember where that conversation was. Just go ahead and search for it. It's going to be a much quicker way to go ahead and find that. Similarly, if you wanted to try and go get contact information from, somebody on your marketing team, you'd be able to look for it here in the people section. It'll give you a list of anybody who's associated with marketing in that section. And then finally, here inside of the files, which I think is one of the most relevant pieces, is if you have any files that have to do with a marketing topic, something to do with your marketing, environment, you're going to be able to see these files easily accessible, again, linked so that you get quick access. So if I wanted to, see this international marketing campaign that I was talking about with Isaiah back in the other message, right, I can easily get right to it, easily accessible, easy for me to reach. Quick. It's all about efficiency inside of Teams. You don't want to be wasting too much time. Just makes your life a lot easier if you're trying to search for something you haven't been able to find. Okay. That's a search bar. Again, going to be a useful tool for you if you ever need to go ahead and find something just really quickly. All right, so I'm going to tell you the goal for me today is to go from activity all the way through calls. We call this the command bar here inside of Teams, just showing you all the different functions that are possible inside of this application. I do want to reiterate, please, by all means, if you ever have any questions, something doesn't make sense, use this new feature called the raise your hand feature, get my attention, put something in the chat window, just speak up, whatever makes the most sense, whatever's easiest for you. I think if you have a question, somebody else on here on the lab might have the same question. I always think it's important to keep this interactive, and I'll be pausing, during the session today to see if there's any questions from the group. Great. So let's go ahead and let's get here into activity. So go ahead and just select activity on the command bar here inside of your team. Okay. This activity section is going to be where you're going to be able to see updates, notifications for what's happening inside of your environment. Okay. So I'll give you a few examples. Did Lydia react? She gave me a heart here to my message. Looks like Diego, he mentioned me directly inside of this team. Alan, looks like he replied to one of the messages that I sent here in one of the teams. And here's one other example. I was added to a team here. And again, what I'm going to highlight, what you'll notice is that this all has to do with information that pertains to your specific account inside of Teams. So anything that happens that pertains directly to you, you should be receiving an activity notification for that. And so what I typically tell people is, just best practice, go ahead and check here on this activity section every single time you jump in. Make sure you clear it out, look through everything that happens so that you don't miss a beat, and then go ahead and get back and finish your work. Okay. Pretty simple, not too complicated to understand there. But again, it's a central piece because if there's ever any kind of, information that's going out there directly for you, you're going to be able to see that here in the activity section. Okay. Let's go ahead and move here into chat. Chat is a beast. Okay, chat has a lot more than just simple one-to-one communication. Microsoft actually likes to brand this as what they call the new conversation experience or new communication experience. And the reason they say that, as you'll see here, is you're going to be able to use this to collaborate, to set meetings, to call, to send messages. There's going to be a lot of different things you can do here inside of the chat function. That being said, I did want to go ahead and I wanted to start here with the basics. So I want everybody here who's inside of this demo environment to go ahead and send me a message. A couple reasons why I want to do that. Number one, I want to make sure everybody understands how to send a message. But also number two, and really, one of the biggest pieces here is I want to show you how these group chats can really end up being a phenomenal way for you to collaborate here inside of Teams. And we'll talk about that again just here in a second. So what I want you guys to do, you see this little square with a pencil inside of it? Okay, this is how you can actually create a brand new chat. So what I want you to do is go ahead and select that. You'll notice it'll ask you to send this message to a specific person. In this demo environment, again, my name is Megan Bowen. So go ahead, when you click on the new message, type in Megan Bowen. I should pop up. So for example, if I wanted to talk to Patty, I would just type in Patty. I could select Patty, and then I could start typing a new message. So go ahead, type in Megan Bowen here in the to section, and then just send me hello, how are you doing, what's up, just like Lydia. Great, so Lydia just sent me hello, that's awesome. I'll go ahead and give everybody a second here to continue sending me a message. All right, there's Isaiah, Joni. You'll notice every time I receive a message, okay, you're gonna get a notification here in the bottom right of your screen. The other thing I want you to pay attention to is that, every time you receive a new message, it's going to be sent to the top of the list, right? And, whether or not you'll notice, that also means that the first message you receive, for example, here from Lydia, is going to continually get pushed down and down the pile. Okay. Is anyone having any issues sending me a message? I want to make sure everybody can if they're inside of the environment. Anybody having any issues sending a message?
I guess no news is good news.
Okay, no news is good news. All right, not a problem. Okay, so I see the message from Lydia. I got a message from Isaiah, and I got another message here from Joni. Happy Friday, Joni. Okay, so you'll see, right? This is an easy way, to do one-on-one communication. You have a quick conversation with Joni, a quick conversation with Isaiah, a quick conversation with Lydia. And on that point, let me elaborate a little bit further. One of the reasons I personally love chat is because I think it's really progress the way that you can communicate as an organization. Typically email is really the primary way that most people are communicating even to this day. And the primary problem I see with email is that, number one, most people aren't necessarily going to be checking email the same as everybody else. Some people check it every hour, some people check it every 2 hours, once a day, right? I see that all the time. The other thing is that it really, builds up your inbox. And so what I recommend people use this chat function for is let's have all of the formal messages, all the important long form information done through email. And everything that's informal, small questions, small collaboration for group chats. Let's move all of that conversation into chat where we're supposed to be doing the primary majority of our work. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'll create a group chat here just to show you how you do this. It's the same function as anything else. I'll add Lydia, Isaiah, and Joni. And then I'll go ahead and send them a message. I'll say, hello, team. All right. If Isaiah, Joni, or Lydia, if you guys want to give me a thumbs up on the message, you want to send me an emoji, you want to send me a GIF back just so everybody else can see what this will look like. Really what this is, if you ever have any kind of group chats, even just on your phone, it's going to be the exact same thing, right? You see Lydia, it's Friday. I love it. Okay. Right. So we can have this communication as a group here. Unlike email, right? It's not going to be a brand new message that you got to click on every single time. And, the key here, the other thing that I want to mention is I also like to be very organized in the way that I communicate with people in my organization. Okay. So what I personally recommend is that every time you have a group chat, just to make your life a lot easier, let's name everything. Okay. It's just going to be easy as opposed to seeing Isaiah, Joni, and Lydia here on the left-hand side. So the way that you're going to do that, you notice right here, you have the names. But to the right of the names, there's a pencil icon. Okay, so go ahead and select on that pencil. And you go ahead and give this a name. I'm just going to give us, we're going to be the marketing team today. But by all means, if Lydia or Isaiah or Joni wanted to switch the name, feel free. You guys can go ahead and switch the name if you like. My point being, right, you see on the left-hand side, it's just a lot easier for me to differentiate now. Okay, I know this is the group chat for my marketing team. On top of that, okay, now we're the A team. I love it. On top of that, if you want to be a little more organized further, what I tell people, if you have important group chats, let's make them easily accessible. I don't want to be scrolling down trying to find that message, right? What What I'm going to do is I'm just going to hover over this group chat. I'm going to click on these three dots. We call this an ellipses here inside of Teams. And you click on this pin. Because when you pin it, right, now it's going to get stuck right there at the top of my messages. It's not going to move. If I'm in calendar, if I'm in Teams, and then I go back here into the chat, this A-team group chat is going to stay right there, easily accessible for me every single time. Makes your life a lot easier. Seems like a simple fix, but trust me, it's just such a better way to be able to communicate here. Okay, so that's just kind of the structure. Valerie's got a question.
Oh, hi there. Good morning.
Good morning.
Wait a minute. Let me lower my volume here. Okay, sorry about that. A couple of things. Number one, when I type your name to send you a hello, nothing shows up. I guess you are not on my contacts, but I couldn't send you a hello. I did send a hello to the LAN Infotech, you know, the ones that we got the email from. So I got, I said hello over there, and I got some replies back from other people watching this. So this would be my question number one.
Okay.
And my question number two is when I read a message, like we can do it on the email, when let's say I read the A-team message, and but I want to reply later, can I mark as unread, like we can do it on email?
Great question, Valerie, because I do that all the time. Okay, I do that all the time. Let me answer that question first. Yes, you can absolutely go ahead. You can right click on it, and then you can click on mark as unread, just like that. Okay. The reason that you don't see us as Megan Bowen is because you're doing this inside of the Teams environment that we're hosting this meeting. I'm not sure, Valerie, if you remember, I mentioned that you're going to have this meeting and you can also have the demo environment in a separate window. And that's why I mentioned this page here where you can go ahead and type your name and then launch one of these personas.
Oh, I apologize. I got late.
No
I
worries.
got 8 minutes late. So
No, totally fine, Valerie. So I put a link into the chat window for you, okay? So that link, it's a CDX link. If you click on that, it'll take you here to this page. It'll say customer immersion experience. Go ahead and just type your name and then select one of these blue launch persona buttons. It'll open up this new window. It'll look black like this. All you're going to have to do is go ahead and open up Microsoft Teams. And inside of this environment, that's where you'll be able to send me a message.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Thank you about that. I apologize.
No worries. No worries. Yeah, feel free to get in here. You know, you can play around inside of Teams. It'd be great. Thanks for asking. Okay, so we're back here into the group chat. Again, I mentioned new communication experience. This is not just going to be for messages. Let me show you a couple other really cool things that you can do here inside of chat. First one, you know, is going to be sending kind of files. Okay, so if you look at this paperclip icon, you'll notice you can attach something from your OneDrive or from your computer. In this case, I'll go ahead and select my computer. I'll click on my assets, modern workplace, and I'll go ahead and send this press release document. Okay. When I go ahead and send this, I do want to give everybody a little bit of clarification. Okay, if you're inside of the Microsoft 365 suite, you're going to have a few different ways to store and share documents. One of them is going to be OneDrive, one of them is going to be SharePoint, another one is going to be Teams. I can do a brief little explanation of the three a little bit later on. The reason I want to kind of give a little bit of explanation about that is because Teams is an extension of SharePoint. Okay, SharePoint is an online repository where you can store documents and get access to them through the web. And what I mean by Teams being an extension is that if you put a document inside of Teams, there's also going to be that copy available inside of SharePoint. Okay, and the reason I want to make that clear is because you'll understand then because of that, every time you send a document, it's going to create a brand new document that is going to be able to be saved automatically. And the key reason I'm mentioning that is because if I send this press release and then we go ahead and we start collaborating on the press release and start working on it, guess what? That press release is no longer going to be the same anymore. Okay, it's going to have those edits that we did. It's going to only be saved here inside of this chat. And so that's what I typically recommend. You know, if you're going to be collaborating, which is the main purpose of Teams, then you're going to want to be sending links as opposed to documents. That's why I wanted to set up this group chat, because when we actually go ahead and we start collaborating later today, I'm going to show you the best way to actually manage this is not to send the document, send the link, and then you'll know exactly where that document is going to be at as you make those edits. Roger, did you want me to show me something?
No, sorry, I did
Oh,
not.
no worries, no worries. Okay. So, that I just wanted to make that clear. That being said, though, there is a lot of benefits to being able to send documents here inside of the chat window. You can send larger documents than normal, right? So if you wanted to send a video, for example, PowerPoint presentation, sometimes you can't send that over email. You can send it here over chat. But again, just be careful. If you're going to be making edits to it, I prefer you send a link, and we'll show you that in just a second. You'll notice Lydia just added Joanna. Okay, so you'll notice if you're in a group chat, somebody can go ahead and add another individual if they wanted to. You can also select how much of the chat history you want to share with them, which I think is pretty cool. Hey, Joanna. I love it. I love it. All right, so sending the documents, big piece of chat. There's also another really cool feature here. Okay, we have the calendar icon. I don't know why my persona here is giving me issues. Okay, so you look at this little calendar icon. Okay, the reason I want to show you this is because you can actually use this to set meetings directly here inside of the Teams application. Okay, so if I go ahead and I select on that, let's see, I think my internet's a little slow. All right, great. So you'll notice, let me actually do this from the group chat so that you guys can see. So if I'm here inside the group chat and I set this meeting, what's going to happen is it's going to open up a brand new meeting invitation. But on top of that, it's going to easily add every single person that's in that group chat, right? So if you wanted to actually be able to schedule meetings from your group chats, this is going to be the easiest, simplest way to do it. Again, Teams is all about efficiency. It's about being able to do things quickly and relatively easily, right? There's also this cool tool here. Since we're here in the meeting invitation, I can show you. You have a scheduling assistant, which you may have seen before inside of Outlook. What you'll notice is that if they have their calendars available, you can actually check to see what the best time would be to schedule this, right? So in this case, I can see that everybody's free at 10 a.m. So I'm going to go ahead and schedule that for 10 a.m. And then the last thing I will show you here about actually scheduling meetings is I'm going to add a channel. I will explain what I'm doing here in just a second, when we actually get into the Teams portion. But you'll notice I'm going to go ahead and press send. And I promise you this actually happened. I'm going to check the calendar. You see that marketing view is loading up. Super, super awesome, easy way to be able to schedule meetings directly from chat. And then the cherry on top, okay, this is probably one of the best ways to actually use chat, is you can actually make calls directly from each of these different conversations. I will tell you, this is probably how I make 90% of my calls here inside of Teams, primarily because of the fact that most of the time I'm messaging somebody and then I'm like, you know what, let's just go ahead and jump on a call. So the way you'll be able to do that is if you click on this button here in the top right of this chat, you'll notice that it's going to actually start calling everybody that's a part of the group chat. So if anybody, who's in that group chat, I believe it was Joanna, I forget everybody else. If any of you go ahead and you pick up the actual call, you'll notice that it's actually just going to go ahead and start a conversation here directly from this chat window. We can jump on a meeting just like a meeting that we have here today. So you notice Isaiah just went ahead and he picked up. You'll notice it's ringing everybody else. We could actually go ahead and have a conversation if we wanted to. Super, super easy way to, again, really revolutionize the way that you're communicating and collaborating here inside of Microsoft Teams. Let me pause there. I know I covered a lot of different things. Any questions on what I just covered so far with the chat function?
So for those of us that don't use Teams in that way,
Yeah.
I guess I'm a little confused. If you're on a Teams call with somebody and you're chatting, why would you need to get them on another call? What am I missing?
Great question. Okay, so there's a variety of different ways to use Teams, and I'm actually glad you brought this up, Bill, because I actually, most of the time I had conversations, people ask me, okay, what do you prefer? Do you prefer Zoom or do you prefer Teams? Right? I get that all the time. Teams is meant to be a lot more than what Zoom can offer. So they're the two leading, virtual conferencing platforms, right? So they have great functions for virtual meetings. But that being said, like if you're really unlocking the full power of what Teams can do, it's going to be doing a lot more than just those video conferencing features. So what I will say, if that's the only reason you're going to be using it and you're not going to be using it for chat, then yeah, just go ahead and use the chat here inside of these meetings. But the idea for Teams was for it to really become your digital workspace where you can collaborate, you can have access to documents, you can be able to call people, message them, all those different things from one application. So it just really, I guess it does depend on how you're going to be using it. But what I will say is most people at this point are not using it just for the video conferencing anymore. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was one of the things I was trying to get out of this call because I don't use it to call, and I wasn't sure how you even did that functionally because I've never done it.
Yeah.
So your Teams is just open. And if you want to call somebody, I guess they have to have their Teams open to even receive the call, correct?
They don't necessarily have to have it open. They just have to have it. So like, for example, if you call them from Teams, if they have either the application on their desktop or the application on their phone, it'll start ringing. They can decide whether or not to pick it up. But yeah, that's how you'll be able to communicate with them. But the idea really, Bill, if you're using it as an organization, very effectively, the majority of the people inside of your organization are using Teams to get the majority of their work done. And so people should be on the application, a good chunk of the day. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. And there's another question here from Grace. She says, can you remove a document once you've shared it on SharePoint? Grace, could you maybe elaborate a little bit more? If you could unmute, maybe kind of give me a little bit more clarity. Are you saying if you share it from SharePoint or from Teams, or what exactly do you mean by that?
Yes, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear.
Okay, so once you've uploaded a document and I guess via Teams from a meeting, are you able to remove it from that meeting? Like, is it only available to edit?
Good. Okay. Yeah. So anytime you upload a document for whatever reason, it's going to be accessible as long as it's still living inside of either one of those applications. So you can absolutely remove it if you wanted to, and it'll remove it from both. But it just depends on if you're going to be sharing it and you're going to be collaborating on the document, you probably don't want to remove it, right? So it just depends on what you want to use it for. If you're not going to be like collaborating and using it inside of the Teams platform, I would probably just suggest to send it and share it through OneDrive at that point, because if you're sharing documents through Teams, through SharePoint, it's typically in the idea that you're going to want to be collaborating or working on them together with somebody else.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Great question. Thanks, Grace. Before I get to you, Valerie, I did see, let's see who else raised their hand. It was, let me just double check. Manuela.
Yes, Andres. Also, are we able to dial out through Teams like another office, like an office number?
Dial out. Do you mean for meetings or for?
Yes. Let's say I don't want to use my because I have my headset on. I'm here. I'm looking for search. I want to have my hands free. I'm looking for documents, and I'm in a meeting, and for some reason I need to reach another company. Can I dial their business number?
Great question. So I'll get into the voice over IP options a little bit later, Manuela, but the answer is yes, you can. It's going to be a different level of Teams. So the original level of Teams gives you access to calling internally, getting on meetings, the document storage, all the chat function. If you wanted to be able to make calls like from a phone number outside of your organization, you're just going to need to turn on Teams calling or use a third-party provider and integrate it into Teams. So it's definitely an option.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Good question. And then Valerie.
Okay, all right. I'm still trying to send you a message,
Okay.
but don't worry about the calendar and the calls. I got it all. I have no question there.
Gotcha.
I'm just behind a little bit on this one.
Uh-huh.
I am actually. It's kind of interesting because when I put my name on the link and I
Okay.
see the personas, I didn't see my name, so I clicked on the first name available, which was Patty Fernandez.
Perfect.
And apparently, I can change her picture. I can get into her account.
Yeah, so Patty is it's a demo environment, Valerie. So don't worry about making any edits or making any changes. When you clicked on the launch persona, did it open up a new window?
Yes, it opened up a new window. And I tried to send you, I went to the pencil and I put Andres and it shows like no.
Love it. Okay, so here's why. You should have just received
Megan.
message.
Megan said hello. Hello, Megan.
So I'm Megan today. That's why. In this demo environment, I'm Megan.
Oh. Okay.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Send me a message back. I'll add you to the group chat right now. Not a
Okay, so
problem.
now the fact that this party that you created, that I can change her availability. So when if somebody clicks on my persona, they cannot go into my account, right?
No, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Ah, okay, Megan.
I love
This
it.
is
Thank you, Ralph.
purely a demo environment for
Yeah,
everybody to play.
yeah, absolutely.
That's the only reason that you have that set up there.
I got it. Now I swear I'm up to date.
I love it. I love it.
Perfect.
Great question.
And then
Andres.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question on the integration. Which third-party integration would you recommend for phones that has international calling plans?
Michael, I'm gonna pass that one to you, my friend.
So Microsoft has its own program that you could use. International in every carrier is always going to be additional. I just bring that up. But you can use Microsoft. You know, we use Intermediate. We use 8x8. You know, if you want, we can discuss it after. But as an example, for $15 a month, Microsoft has a business voice plan that will let you turn Microsoft Teams into your full, you know, phone. PBX and that type of stuff, voicemail, those types of things.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, great question. All right, so this is just the chat, you guys. We just got through a little piece of this. Let's go ahead and let's move here into the Teams function. Okay.
And let me just close up with one more thing on.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, go ahead.
Guys, what we do, you know, at our company is we live in teams, just like Andres said that he does, and our guys are 22 people across, you know, the 3 counties here, and we chat back and forth. And then after a while, sometimes, depending on what age bracket you're in, some people will chat you to death. But sometimes I'll sit out there and I want to be able to go out there and get to the point. So I would just click on the call button, and someone in my company, I would just get them on a call on my headset. So instead of getting 32 chats, I can get them going. And then if I needed to arrange to have one of our other people on there, I can add them into the call, just like you would do with your call system. Like I said, sometimes people are very chatty, and I just want to get to the point. And, you know, that's what we were talking about on dialing, you know, people inside your world. But I am connected with my Microsoft team. I could actually call Andreas if I wanted on his teams outside of our company that's out there. So we have ways of using the internet to call other people without a dial plan if we're all connected. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Absolutely, absolutely. Teams is very flexible. You know, depending on what you need it to use it for, you can just, you know, make it work for you. Manuela.
Excuse me. I have one more question addressed for you.
Mhm.
When you,
Yeah.
let's say, I host a lot of presentations, right?
Mhm.
And I might be collaborating with a colleague, and my colleague is the administrator, the one that created the meeting.
Okay.
Now, if I, for whatever reason, need to chat individually with the participants, am I able to do that?
Yeah, so you would just have to open up a new chat and input their email typically is what you would do.
Okay.
Or
I
if they
need to
have a
have
Teams account.
Okay. Got it.
Good question. Good question. Okay, so we're here inside of the Teams function. Okay, so we were talking about the chat, the communication piece to it. But, you know, one of the other primary pieces to Teams is the ability to have remote access to your documents and your files and your information. And so this is why you see the structure here for this Teams portion of the environment. If you ever use something like Slack, it's a very similar infrastructure, meaning you're going to have your teams. Okay, so your teams are going to be basically the overarching group of people who are working together towards a common goal. There's different, you know, ways that you can organize this. Some people like to do it on a department level, so every single department would have their own team. And then underneath each of those teams, what you'll notice, you can go ahead and create subsets, which are called channels, right? So inside of communications, for example, we have a general channel and we have a UI UX copy guidelines channel. We have a design team, and inside of that design team, we have a general channel, an American Design Awards channel, and a PNW Coffee social campaign channel. So you'll notice, right, these are all different departments, it seems like, inside of this organization, Contoso. And each of these different departments break up their teams into some of the different projects that they're working on. Right. So that's typically how I would recommend you set up your teams. Really, for me, it's all about making it a very easy way, not only to allow people who are meant to work together to collaborate, but also to be able to do this securely, right? Because there's certain documents, there's certain information that we only want certain people to have access to. And so we want to strategically, organize this in a way where the people who should be accessing certain files are accessing certain files, right? There's going to be a variety of ways to do this. One thing to note, everything that lives and sits inside of Teams is going to be encrypted at rest and in transit, so you don't necessarily have to worry about security from that front. The other thing I will mention is that you're going to be backed by Microsoft 365 security, which is really fundamentally based on what's called identity and access management. Okay, it's all about making sure that you know who is accessing what, from where, and from what location. Okay, so let me give you an example, right? So let's say here inside of this communications team, we have some important information. I'll get to you, Manuela, in just a second. Inside of this communications team, let's say we have some important information that we only want certain people to have access to. In that case, I'm only going to invite those relevant parties into this specific team. On top of that, if out of those 10 members, let's say, there was another piece of that where I only wanted 3 of them to be able to access another specific set of information, I could then go ahead and create what's called a private channel. And I'll show you how to do that here in just a second. Manuela?
That also goes, Andres, I deal with a lot of, social security information, date of birth, a lot of, you know, delicate information. A lot of forms that, the participants needs to fill out. And so I'm able to securely, usually what I do is, let me just trace back. Usually what I do, I just try to encrypt it and then I send it via email to secure that information, right? So what I'm hearing is that I'm able to send certain forms through Teams and it will be secure. It will be like a way of encrypted type of
Yeah, so it's
information.
always going to be encrypted regardless of whether or not it's just sitting or if it's getting sent. But what I would recommend is, again, it's all based on access, right? The identity of the person who's trying to access it. So what I would do is, I would create a private channel probably for all of that really sensitive information inside of a team. So let's say, for example, we have this communications team. I'm going to go ahead and hover over this team and click on this ellipses, and I'm going to go ahead and add a channel. Okay, and actually, you know what? Let me do this in the Contoso team because I know everybody's a part of this. So here in the Contoso team, I'm going to go ahead and add a channel. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and just call this, let's say this is really important HR information. I'm going to change this from standard, okay, to private, meaning that only a certain portion of the people in that team will even be able to get access to this additional channel. And I'm going to go ahead and hit next. And then I'm going to have to add specific people. Who are the people that I'm going to be adding to this? I know that Diego is the HR manager, so I'll go ahead and add him, and then I'll just go ahead and add him, and I'll press done. The critical piece here is that now only myself and Diego are actually allowed to not only see, number one, that this exists, but number two, be able to access the files that are currently living here inside of this channel. So Manuela, what I would recommend is let's stop sending the actual file because we're inherently adding additional risk by actually sending the file over email or however we're doing it. Let's go ahead and let's have those files living inside of this secure location in Teams, and let's send links over email or send links over chat, because now even if somebody accidentally gets access to the link, only the people who are allowed into that actual link will be able to open up the document. So that's how I would recommend it. I think it's a more secure way to do it. Plus, you're going to still have quick, easy access to it if you need it.
Okay, thank you.
And also what I would say is that, there's a trace of everything that you did, number one. And number two is depending on what version of Office 365 you're using. For some of our clients now, we've actually implemented that anytime in an email, a chat, or anything externally that they see something representing a social security number, a credit card number of data for a group of people, somebody gets alerted just to be sure that someone really is looking to send that information out, so that it could be audited, or you could say, Joe, why are you sending out socials? and then you could go out and even block that. But the trail, the digital trail, and that's where Andres was leading, that you could go back and search and find this, or someone at a higher level could actually, do this for compliancy.
Yeah, big piece of Teams. I think security is always going to be a big issue, big topic of discussion. So great questions. Okay, so now that we kind of understand the setup and kind of how it's structured here in terms of storing the documentation, let's go ahead and get into how we can actually collaborate and work together here on these documents. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to show you is I'm going to come here to this general channel inside of this Contoso team. And let me just quickly, briefly talk about this post section. So, I think people use this post section a little too much for full-blown conversations. Not to say that, you can't directly mention somebody and ask them a specific question. Like, that's totally fine. My personal preference, though, I just think it's easier to get access to. It's easier to have a conversation about in the chat. So if you need to talk about something, I would prefer to use the chat function. However, you can go ahead and use this to send messages to people. For example, if I wanted to say, at Isaiah, please bring coffee to the meeting, right? Because I mentioned him with that @ symbol, you see how it's in purple? He's now going to get a direct activity notification. He's going to be able to know that I sent him this message and go ahead and open it up and see that and be able to respond to me. However, typically the reason I recommend you want to use this actual post section is for any kind of announcements. Okay, so for example, you'll see that I actually scheduled this meeting here in the post section. I'll talk about that in just a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and mention this to the entire team. I'm going to let them know there's a meeting scheduled for 10 a.m. But the key piece of this is that instead of just sending the message, which makes it bold for most people, they're not going to necessarily be able to see that, the message was sent. What I want to actually do in this case is go ahead and press the @ symbol again. But instead of mentioning one specific person, I'm going to mention the entire channel. So I'm going to go @general. Meeting is scheduled for 10 a.m. And so now as I go ahead and I send this message, everybody who's a part of this Contoso general channel should be receiving an activity notification about this message. They can come in here, they can see the announcement, then go ahead and check and see what's going on. So that's my primary way of using this post section. The other thing I will mention is, especially if you have a larger group and you want to give everybody easy access to get to this meeting, you can send the meeting like I did earlier by attaching the channel in the meeting invitation. So when I attach that Contoso general channel, what you'll notice is that this invitation was actually sent directly into this post section. I can open this up. I can click join and I can get quick access to this marketing review meeting if I wanted to directly from the channel. So let's say you have a team that's got, like 50 people, right? Instead of adding every single one of them to that, meeting, I'm just going to send it in the channel. It's going to be much easier for me to actually, create that. I'm not going to waste my time adding 50 people to an invitation. Right. So that's the post section, not too complicated. Again, for announcements, for sending those meeting invitations, that's the primary reason I actually use it myself. That being said, let's go ahead and let's get here into this files piece. Okay, so go ahead and open up this file section inside of the Contoso General. You'll notice there's nothing here. It's a complete blank slate. So this is an opportunity for me to kind of share with you what your options are if you're really just starting this journey into Teams. Number one, you can go ahead and just drag and drop and upload documents one by one if you wanted to. So if you wanted to do it that way and you wanted to organize the specific documents you put, you have option to do that. Your other option is to actually go ahead and add a cloud storage. So let's say you have all your documents in SharePoint, you have all your documents in Dropbox, all your documents in Google Drive, for example. You could actually establish a connection between this specific channel and that file storage, so that you can access all those files directly here from Teams. You can do that as well. That being said, that's really just to get you started. As you continue to upload more and more documents, typically dragging and dropping or just uploading directly from your computer is the easiest way to do that. Additionally, though, you can also create brand new documents directly here inside of Teams, and I'll show you how to do that. So you see this little plus icon. You go ahead and you click on the plus new. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and add a Word document. And this is going to be for collaboration purposes. I'm going to go ahead and I always do this. I create a potluck list document. Okay. I always think it's easier for people to be able to think about, a potluck list. Think about things that we can add here. So I'm going to go ahead and add this. I'm going to number this 1 through 5. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and close this document really quickly. Because again, remember, this is meant to be my collaboration document. This is just an example. Maybe it's a report that we're working on, some type of, agenda that we're going to be creating for a meeting together. Whatever the document is, the point is we're going to be working as a team on it. So if that's the case, what I recommend is let's get a link to it and let's send the link in the chat, because people will be able to access it easily through the link, and all the work is going to be done in the exact location where I want it done. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to hover over this. I'm going to click on the ellipses. I'm going to click on copy link. I'm going to click on copy. And then I'm going to go ahead and go into the chat window. In here, inside of my group chat with the A team, I'm going to go ahead and send this link. And you'll see now everybody who's in this group chat is going to be able to select on this link and automatically get access right to this potluck list. Super, super quick, super, super easy. And so now, everybody who's in this demo environment, by all means, please go ahead and open up this link. Come in here and jump into this document with me so that we can actually show everybody the collaboration capabilities inside of Microsoft Teams. So I'll just go ahead and I'll give everybody an opportunity to go ahead and get into the group chat, click on and select that link. You'll see Lydia just jumped in, right? I can see that Lydia's here with me. Lydia, go ahead and start typing. I'll start typing on number 1. You can start typing on number 2. Let's just say I'm going to bring some pumpkin pie. All right. You'll notice that as I'm typing, she is going to be able to be making her edits as well, right? We're all going to be able to collaborate. We're going to be able to make these edits together real time. And what's even more cool as well is this is actually all going to be automatically saved. Remember, this is going to be done over the web. You'll notice I have 3 of other people with me here now. I also have Isaiah and I have Joanna who just joined. They can actually start making their edits here through 4 and number 5 as well. We can start listing out what we can actually bring to this quote unquote potluck, right? Super, super awesome. Very quick, very efficient. Even if you're not going to be working together on the same document, I think the key here is that we're going to be able to create this one workspace where we're going to be able to make all these edits and have them all saved in one location. I'm not sure if anybody's willing to share if you've ever played the game where you have your document, you download the latest version, you make your edits, you send that version over email, they download the latest version, they make their edits, and then they send it back, and then you play tag back and forth, right? Super inefficient way to do things. It takes way more time. People can't see exactly what's happening, all the latest edits. There's a lot of reasons why this makes a lot more sense than what you'll typically see what the typical organization is doing. Is there any questions on this collaboration piece? This is a really important piece of what you can do here inside of Teams. Any questions?
Hi, Andres. This is Cassidy. I'm under Lydia's name.
Okay.
I had a question about the track changes. You kind of touched on it a little bit now. Is there a way to do that within Teams, or will it just track the changes via Teams?
Great question. So I'm going to show you the connection here between Teams and SharePoint, because truth be told, you can track changes, and I'll show you how to do that here in just a second. However, it's also going to be much easier for you to have more controls through SharePoint. Okay, but let me show you what you can do in Teams. So if you click on the review section and you click on track changes for everyone, if you start typing here with your Lydia persona, I'll go ahead and start typing here with mine as well. So I'm going to create a 6. Okay, and let's say I want to go ahead and I want to add, I don't know, I'll bring some steak now. Okay, so you notice as I make my edits, as Joanna makes her edits, as Lydia starts to make more edits herself, all of these changes are being tracked. They're not actually being saved as a part of that document. For that document to actually save and to change, I'm going to have to hover over each of these and approve them. Right, so I have to hover over these. Okay, you know what? I like the steak. I like the chicken breast. And now they actually become a part of the document. There's going to be even more granular controls through SharePoint, which I'll show you all in just a second. Okay. Okay. There's also another really cool piece of this. I'll go ahead and I'll turn off the track changes here for just a second. You notice there's a translate function. right? So if you're ever going to be speaking with somebody, you know, maybe you wanted to quickly translate something from one language. If you're having issues, you want to, you know, maybe your primary language is Spanish and you want to be able to do this in English quickly. You can do this here in chat as well as inside of any of these files. I just thought that was a really cool piece. I wanted to show you. You can do that. But back to what I was talking about in terms of tracking the changes and tracking the controls. Let me really bring together the connection here between Teams and SharePoint. So let me go ahead and open this up. I'm going to open up a new browser here inside of this remote desktop. Again, this is going to show you the flexibility of Teams, right? We were here inside of the desktop app version of that Teams. You'll see as I go ahead and I log in, what's going to happen, I'm going to complete this setup. I'm going to confirm this so that I sign in on the web as this Megan account. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open up a new tab. I'm going to type in office.com. And because I'm already signed in as Megan, it automatically takes me to my workspace. And you'll notice I'll have direct access to all the different applications inside of my Microsoft 365 account. I could go ahead and open up the online version of Teams if I wanted to. But in this case, I want to go ahead and open up SharePoint just to kind of bring the connection all together. Okay, so as you may know, right, you can create different types of sites in SharePoint. You can create, ones for just storing information on a specific topic and having all of that together in a really nice, intranet. Or, most people use this again for the storage capabilities. Okay, so what you'll see here, I'll go ahead and I'll get into my Contoso team. I'll get into my documents section. And you'll notice, guess what? The document we were just working on is right here, right? That exact copy, right, of what we were working on. If I make edits in this SharePoint section, it's going to also appear in my team section. These are essentially the same document. They're just accessible in a variety of different ways. Andres?
Yeah, it's an off-topic question. What's the main difference between SharePoint and OneDrive?
Great question. Yeah, so SharePoint and OneDrive, let me kind of just bring this all together again. So Teams, let me start with Teams. So Teams is your workspace. Okay, right? So you're going to be able to do that document storage as well as the chat, the video conferencing, all that stuff. It's going to be your primary workspace. And that's why you want to have access to those documents so you can collaborate and work on them. When we're talking about SharePoint, we're talking about OneDrive. SharePoint is typically seen as your online repository for your documents, right? So I can come in here and similar to Teams, I can store all of my information. However, there's going to be more granular control, right? That's what I was referencing earlier. So if I click on the ellipses, right, I'll show you what other things I can do. I can go ahead and I can share this inside or outside of my organization. However, I will recommend if you're going to be sharing anything outside of your organization, that's when I would bring up OneDrive, and I'll show you why in just a second. However, what are some other things I could do through SharePoint, right? So let me go ahead and open that up again. I can manage access. Do I want to only have a certain amount of people able to actually make edits to this document? Do I want to lock it completely where there's no editing capabilities inside a team so it just stays, the same, it stays consistent? Do I want to go ahead and see a version history of this document, right? If I go ahead and I open up a version history, let's see maybe how did this look like at 742. I can go ahead and open this up and it'll actually open up the Word document that'll show me the differences. Every time you see an edit, you'll see a difference in terms of how the document looked previously according to how it looks right now here inside of the current situation. So you'll see, you'll see the current document has everything here. It even has hola right here at the bottom. This, older version, you see from the version history, only has 1 and 2 filled out, right? And I can go ahead and I can restore that if I wanted to switch it back to this version, which I think is really cool. So that's what you can do with SharePoint, right? You can really control, you can share. I would recommend only internally inside your organization. You can also use it in a variety of different ways in terms of integrating things like Power Apps and Power BI, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. However, if we come here into OneDrive, there's going to be a couple other things that I would focus on OneDrive for. Number one, OneDrive is going to be a little different than SharePoint and Teams because you can actually go ahead and you can sync this. So when I actually go ahead and I sync this with my computer, what's going to happen is that every single one of those documents that's going to be available online here through my OneDrive will now be easily accessible directly from my File Explorer. So I go ahead and I click Next, and I continue here. I skip this. I go next, next, next. All right, later. open my folder. So what you'll notice now is I actually created an exact connection here to my OneDrive here directly inside of my File Explorer. So that's one difference. Another difference is you're going to have more granular control when you actually go ahead and share outside your organization. This is why I recommend using OneDrive for sharing outside your org. Let's say, for example, I want to share this annual financial report. What you'll notice is I'm going to be able to do a few things. Do I want it to make it so that everyone with the link can actually go ahead and access this file? Do I want to allow them to only edit or to not to edit, right? Do I only want people in my organization with the link to be able to access it? Only people with existing access, or maybe only a specific type of person. But let's say I'm just going to leave it for anyone with the link, okay? What's going to be awesome is on top of that, I can actually set an expiration date. I can say, you know what, this is only going to be a useful link for 1 day. Okay, it's going to expire after tomorrow. Additionally, I'm going to go ahead and block downloading. Okay, so I'm going to block it so that if I send this link, nobody is actually going to be able to download that specific document. And then finally, I can even password protect this, right? I'm just going to put password as a password. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to apply this. And I'm going to be able to copy this link, right? And so now as I go ahead and I send this here into the Teams chat, for example, okay, I go ahead and send this link to everybody. They can go ahead and open up this OneDrive link, but before they can actually get in, again, they're going to have to put in the password, which is just password. I can go ahead and verify, and now I'm going to be able to get in directly here inside of this OneDrive document, right? Super awesome, super useful, very, very phenomenal way for you to be able to share outside of your organization. For me, that's the primary purpose, right? Let's see if it'll let me download here. Download a copy. Okay, I'm the owner, so that's why I can download, I'm sure. I'm curious if you guys would go ahead and try it out. I've actually never tested that, so I want to see if that'll work. But anyway, does that make sense? Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say also, you know, differences is that SharePoint documents live exclusively in the cloud by default, where OneDrive documents traditionally live on your laptop or desktop hard drive. So it's just a different world that's out there and what your users are used to, and you know where you want this to be.
A lot of things here, guys. This entire suite just has so many different options. Just want to kind of show you some of those different, use cases. But that's how you can collaborate. That's how you can store information. That's how it works. All right, so it doesn't allow you to download it. Success. Woo! Okay, that is so cool. I've actually never tried that on the training. I'm glad that worked.
And then a lot of these things can be set up for your organization by default. We're working with a construction company right now where they want, documents in these channels to be automatically defaulted. They want a 14-day link set up every time they send something externally. They also want some encryption in some of the things. So a lot of things could be set up by default.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so we talked about, the file storage capabilities here inside of Teams, but, one of the things that I don't think we talk about enough as, Teams evangelists here is really how Teams is a platform as well. Okay, and what I mean by that is that Teams, inside of Teams, you're going to be able to integrate specific applications, could be Microsoft applications, could be third-party applications, directly into the Teams environment, into Teams, into channels, into the overall platform. You'll notice here, I'll start here inside of this general channel. You notice this plus sign, okay? You see how you can add a tab. What you'll notice is that you can actually add, again, some Microsoft tools directly here into the, channels, which I'll show you a couple here in just a second. Or do you have any third-party applications? Let me just continue scrolling here that you might be using currently inside of your organization that you want to be able to have access to directly here inside of your Teams channel. I mean, it is just phenomenal. I'll tell you, there was probably half as many of these at the beginning of this year. I just think people, the beginning of last year, I just think people continue to realize, that the team is just growing exponentially. Let me actually give you guys some numbers. I forgot to mention this at the beginning. When we were starting, before the pandemic started, okay, Teams had about 20 to 25 million daily active users. Still a good chunk of people, but not really an extremely large number. Where we currently sit today, the most recent figure that I read is that we are averaging over 115 million daily active users. We're talking about a 4 to 5x growth in 1 year. I mean, absolutely incredible. And the reason I wanted to mention that is because, you know, if you haven't really made the push to start integrating Teams, I think it's time. Just because Microsoft follows numbers, they follow the money. And so I'm telling you right now, the changes I've seen over this year have been absolutely exceptional. They're going to continue to push more and more changes. They're going to continue to invest in the application. It's going to continue to get better and better. That being said, let me show you one of these capabilities again, is this integration of these applications. You know, I recommend a couple just in general. The first one I'll talk about here is OneNote. Okay. This is really, you can see this as your digital 3-ring binder. It described to me that way. I thought that was a phenomenal way to describe it. I'll go ahead and I'll just call this the notebook. Okay, and I'll go ahead and I'll save this. The key here to OneNote is that it's your way to be able to take down information that's going to be relevant. It's going to be important for the rest of your team. Okay, the beauty of this, whether or not you've used OneNote before in the past, is that OneNote is going to be directly integrated here into the actual Teams environment. Meaning that as I go ahead and I take notes here, these notes are going to be accessible to everybody else on the team as well. So let's say, for example, I'm going to go ahead and rename this section. I'm going to call this meeting notes. Okay. And let's say here inside of this meeting, we have meeting A. Okay, we have another meeting. We have meeting B. Right, and let's say I go ahead and I start taking, you know, these random notes. All right. Again, because this is inside of a collaboration environment, everybody else who's a part of this team is going to be able to go ahead, click on this notebook, open up the meeting notes from meeting B, and be able to see all of the things that I took down during the meeting. Why is this relevant again? Let's say we have a meeting. It's going to be me, it's going to be Michael, and it's going to be Bill, for example. And for whatever reason, you know, let's say I was out, I couldn't make the meeting. Bill and Michael, they go ahead and they take those notes. They go ahead and show me what's going on. And then I'm able to come into this team, follow along, and be able to see what's happening. Really, really simple way. I have a OneNote directly inside of every single team I'm a part of, because then I have one central location that's an organized way for me to take notes anytime I'm talking about a specific topic. Any questions on that one, you guys? Any questions? See if there was something in the chat window. Grace, I think, said something. Can you remove it? Oh, no, oops, that was way before. Okay, we're good. All right, so that's OneNote. Here's another one that I recommend. Let me go ahead and get back here to this Contoso general channel. I recommend Tasks by Planner. Okay, I'm not sure if anyone's ever used Planner before. This is all about staying on track, making sure that you're doing what's necessary in order to accomplish the goals that you're setting for your organization. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save it as tasks. Okay, if you've ever used Microsoft Project, this is a simpler version of Project that, again, it's all about completing specific tasks. So for example, let's say I need somebody to complete, just let me turn off caps lock, complete a some type of report. Okay, I want you to complete a report. I'm going to go ahead and assign this. I need this done within the week. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to assign this to, let's say I want to put Joanna, I want to put Joni, and I want to give Lydia this specific task. So when I go ahead and I add task, what's going to happen is now they're going to get a direct activity notification. They're going to know that they need to complete this report by 2/26, and it's assigned directly to them. Additionally, if I go ahead and I open this up a little further, you can see other ways I can actually customize this. I can say, I need this done ASAP, right? Just to add a couple notes for them. And I can also add checklist items. So maybe I want this to be 12-point font. I want this to be 5 pages. I want this to have a detailed, you know, marketing budget, whatever it is, okay? They're going to be able to come in here, open up the task. You notice Lydia just came in here and she completed it. So it looks like she already completed the report. But let's say, for example, you know, we didn't want to actually complete this report. What I could do is she could actually come in here and individually let me know, okay, I've completed that, and I need to go ahead and I need to finish this detailed marketing budget as well in order to complete this entire report. And again, you know, it's all about making sure you're on top of the people that you're assigning specific tasks. One of the reasons that I love Planner is that it stays on top of you, right? If you got like 1 day left, for example, in order to actually complete this specific report, I guarantee you're going to get an email about it. If you're overdue on the task, you're going to get an email about it. If it's due that day, you're going to get an email about it, right? It's going to make sure you stay in line with what you need to accomplish that day, that week, that month, that year. I highly recommend it. I think it's a phenomenal way to really organize what needs to get done. You can also organize them here into buckets. I'll give you an example of what I used to do here with some customers. When I was onboarding, one of the things I used to do is I used to organize tasks into specific weeks so that, I knew that, week 1, we need to complete X, Y, and Z. Week 2, we need to complete X, Y, and Z. And then we continued that progress down every single week. Phenomenal tool. I think it's something that you can definitely utilize for, any kind of projects you're working on, any kind of, specific, engagements that you need to complete. A lot of different ways to creatively use this. Any questions on, what I shared here, or maybe just in general, the different applications you can integrate?
Hi, Andres. This is Cassidy again.
Hey, Cassidy.
Hi. There any Microsoft certifications in addition to Teams that you think are, essential just to kind of start off by adding on these, add on by the tasks and the OneNote, etc.?
By certifications, did you mean applications or do you mean like education?
I guess educational.
I don't know if there's necessarily certifications to look into. I think, especially if you're paying attention today and you just start using it, like I mentioned, I think you'll really catch an understanding. However, I used to read this all the time. If you just go to Microsoft Learn, they have a lot of really free content online that you can look at. And I think, Michael, you'll be sharing some, additional information as well after the lab today. But if you
I'll send some documents, and also there's a great Microsoft site that has just quickie snippets of videos of how to use different functions in Teams. And then if you find that you need something a little more in depth, whether it's for you or just your organization, we do resell a product that snaps into Teams that actually gives you online training pieces and validates that training. So basically, if you had 10, 15, 20, 100 people that needed to be trained, you can gamify this and have little snippets to go out there and make sure that people take the specific training.
Is that Power App, Michael?
No, it's actually a clip training. It's an add-in application that's out there. But I'll follow up with the Microsoft training site that lists all the Teams training, and they're quickie. Some of them are 30 seconds, some of them are 2-minute videos.
That's awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey, great question. One of the other things that you can do here, I was showing you specific, things that you can integrate into these team sites. There's also other concepts, like Power BI, Power Automate, Power Applications, which I can just briefly mention. I don't necessarily have the time to go in depth on any one of these, but the one that I want to focus on is Power Apps. Okay. Power Apps are really a phenomenal way that you can integrate specific, business functions into Teams. So if you needed to solve a specific problem, let's say, for example, you wanted to have a really easy way for people to actually go ahead and schedule time on the calendar, or if you wanted to have an easy way for people to schedule, vacation. If you wanted to have an easy way for people to go ahead and expense certain, fees that they incurred while they were doing business. These are called Power Apps, Power Applications, right? You can actually create them inside of Microsoft 365. There's templates. I'm sure we can follow up on, other ideas in terms of how we can do this. But point being, you can actually come here to the apps portion. Okay. If you have your own proprietary one you wanted to use, you could go ahead and upload a custom app, or you could go ahead and look, at all the different options here inside of the store. And again, these are going to be specific tools that you can integrate into Teams that are going to solve those specific business problems. And the beauty of it is all of that is going to be in that one central workspace where you're doing the majority of your work. So again, we're just touching the surface here in terms of what you can do with Teams. There's so many other things that are possible as well. Just kind of want to give you an idea of, what's available to you as you're using this specific application. A lot of different things we can do here, you guys, a lot of different things. So that's the Teams portion. That's the file storage. That's the application integration. Let me go ahead and just quickly touch here on the calendar portion. Number one question I typically get is whether or not this calendar syncs with Outlook, and the answer is absolutely yes. Everything that you put on Outlook is going to be available in Teams. Everything you put in Teams is going to be available in Outlook. Okay, it's the same way. The only thing that I will mention is that the functionality is a little bit better inside of Outlook. I'll give you an example. In Outlook, you can create an appointment and you can also create a team. Inside of Teams, you can only create Teams meetings, right? So you don't necessarily have the option for both. That being said, the content, the actual meeting, the meeting link, it's all going to be consistent inside of both applications. You're going to be able to schedule meetings a couple different ways. You can schedule it from the chat. You can schedule it by hovering over a specific section. You can also do it by clicking on that new meeting. Okay. That being said, there is also this other concept. It's called a Microsoft Live event. Has anyone ever heard of a live event before?
No, I haven't.
Okay, cool. So this will probably be pretty good for you guys. If you're having a meeting where you want interaction like we have today, back and forth, you're going to want to do a Teams meeting because you're going to be able to communicate, collaborate, and work with the people on the call. However, if you're going to be doing something where it's a one-to-many event where you don't necessarily need the audience to be able to speak with you, more like webinar style, you can actually set that type of event up here inside of Teams as well. The way that you do that is you go ahead and you click on this drop down and you'll notice it says live event. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to put test here. What you'll notice though is that I can invite presenters and producers. The producer is going to be the person who's going to be managing the actual event. They're going to be, managing who gets put in front of the screen. They're going to be managing who comes next on live. They're going to be managing what gets presented to the audience. The presenter is just going to be the person who's going to be speaking, going to be sharing their documents, whatever it looks like. Okay, so I'll go ahead and click next so that you can see this. You notice we can have people in groups, organizational wide, or any kind of public facing event. I can add a recording, I can add a Q&A, I can add an attendee engagement report, whatever you need. Okay, and then I'll go ahead and I'll schedule this. You'll notice I want to make sure this is clear as well. There is a join link that is for your presenters and your producers. By all means, do not send this to the attendees. You need to actually go ahead and send them this attendee link. If you give them the join link, they'll come in on the back end, which is absolutely not what you want. But you go ahead and you click join. Let me go ahead and show you what this looks like. Okay, this is the producer's view. So you notice there's going to be a queue here. There's going to be a live event section, and this is down here where you'll be able to see all the people, the documents, the different things you're going to be sharing. Let me go ahead and just share a screen here inside so that you can see what this looks like. Let me share a window. Okay. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is, because this is content, I can go ahead and put this into the queue, and then I can go ahead and send this live. And so now as I'm starting this event, the attendees are going to be able to see that I'm sharing this content live with the audience. If I have another presenter here, some other document or media that I want to share, I'd click on them, it'll send them to the queue. And then as soon as I'm ready to put that live, it goes ahead and sends that live as well. And so you have a lot more granular control on the back end here. It's a nicer view, it's more production quality, and it's a really nice way to go ahead and actually schedule those events out. Phenomenal tool here that a lot of people I don't think have access, didn't know they even had access to directly inside of the Teams environment. Any questions on that?
10,000 person limit.
Andres?
Yeah, the question was not necessarily in there, but if I'm having a meeting, how would I be able to put the audio of my window if I'm, I don't know, showing a YouTube video or something like that?
Good question. So when you actually go ahead and you share, before you share, you need to select a little box that says share system audio, so that when you actually do that, it'll share the actual video. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
let me actually see if I can actually demo this here. This has been a popular song here. Okay, let me go ahead and share this really quickly. So notice if I play this, right? You go ahead and skip this. You guys can't hear this, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and share, and then I'm going to click on system, include the computer sound, I guess is the new name. Share the screen. You guys see? Do you guys hear that?
Yep.
Yes.
John
Awesome.
into it already.
There you go. So if we get to have too much fun, let me go ahead and remove that. But that's the point. Yeah, that's how you would actually do that. I love the song too. Okay.
And there's a lot of cool things that happen between live and when you're sharing content also. You know, one of the things that I end up doing a lot is I have to share PowerPoint slides. So when you go into that share tray, there's a lot of different ways to share. Lots of times you don't want them to see your desktop. You might have something else on another screen. So, you know, once you click that share tray, play around with the options that are there, because there's a lot of cool ways and easy ways to be able to go out and share content like that. Click that button to allow audio.
Absolutely. Okay, so that was the calendar portion. Andres, you're gonna like this last piece, and this is just for everybody. Okay, this is about voice over IP here inside of Teams, or the ability to make outbound calls to people outside your organization. Let me make it, pretty clear like this. I think being able to do all of the communication for your business from one central location is beneficial for a variety of reasons, right? The flexibility, the ease of use, the ability to really manage exactly what you need to cover, who you need to communicate with. On top of that, though, when we're talking about voice over IP and we're comparing that to a typical phone system, the reason I really try and push people to at least take a look and explore the option is because, number one, I think it's more flexible, it's better, it's all going to be over the internet, right? So if somebody, for example, there's a pandemic where people aren't working in the office anymore and it's tied to their desk phone, guess what? They can't make those calls, right? You need to be able to have the flexibility so that if people are working from home, as we start moving to more flexible workspaces, people can make the call anywhere they have access to the internet. On top of that, you're going to be able to do this typically at a reduced price. Pretty much everybody I've spoken with, if they actually start doing it, because you're consolidating things under one platform, oftentimes you're going to see that the reduction in price is typically there. Vast majority of people. So for me, the way I see it, if you're going to be using Teams as a way to make outbound calls, or you're just going to be doing outbound calls pretty often in general, I would at least explore the option. Take a look at how the cost would look when compared to what I'm currently spending, because not only am I going to get more value from the service, I may also be able to save money. So it almost becomes a no-brainer at that point. I think calling at this point is really going to start moving towards voice over IP. I think the transitions already began pretty heavily. And so being able to do this again from that one workspace is really where you're able to see all the benefits of Teams come to life. Does anybody have any questions on that specifically? Okay, we already talked about that, so it makes sense. But that's the calling feature, right? So we went through the activity, the chat, the Teams, the calendar, the calls. Holistically, that's what you can do inside of Teams. That being said, we have some time here. I always like to kind of share, some of the meeting features if I have some time, just because I think it's a useful piece of what you can do here inside of the application. So let me go ahead and share my meeting screen so you can see here. Let me just show you some of the buttons here that you can actually play around with. So number one, right, we've got the participant section. So you can actually go ahead and see who's currently in the meeting. If I'm getting a lot of noise from somebody, I can go ahead and hover over them and I can mute them if I wanted to. I can also spotlight them, right? So if somebody's actually, center of attention, they're presenting during the call, I can easily go ahead and spotlight them and put them front and center for everybody to see. Additionally, again, here in the participant section, if you're the meeting organizer, you can actually click on this ellipses and you should be able to download a list of the current attendees for the call, which I think is a very useful piece of what you can do inside of Teams as well. So that's the participants piece. Okay. The other thing that you can take a look at is this chat window, right? So we all understand how this chat window works. Let me go ahead and put the charger in. Right, we've been able to message people back and forth here during the actual call, during the meeting, so we can see, right, if you have questions, you have something to talk about, easily this chat is going to be, functional and able to be used directly here inside of the meeting. We also have some other cool features, right? Raise your hand if you wanted to get some attention. With the new updates, they're actually going to be, I think, adding some additional features here, like a heart emoji, a raise your hand, a thumbs up type of thing. So I'm excited to see where that actually goes. The other thing that we can show here is this more actions button. Okay, so what are some of the really crucial pieces here? Number one is I think that's really cool, is together mode. If we're confident enough, if we're willing to get on camera here, I want to show you something that's really cool here inside of together mode. So if you guys just put your camera on really quickly, you can see it. This just makes it a really fun a way for us to be able to come together here on video. So you see as we come together, we're here in the same workspace, right? We can actually change the scene. So if we wanted to come here and be, inside of our office, we have the ability to do that. If we wanted to be here, outside in the rocks, we could do that as well. I just think it's fun. It's cool. It's a great way just to bring a little bit of energy to meetings, right? So we can all see each other right here. I think it's pretty awesome. What are some other things we can do here? We have background effects. Let me go ahead and put it to gallery so you guys can see my background. I wish, my office looked this nice, but frankly, it just does not. So I can go ahead and I can go to my backgrounds and I'll show you. I just have a white space, right? It's just a white wall. That's all it is, right? But these backgrounds are a phenomenal tool. I'll tell you my current favorite, it's just not as professional. I think this is gorgeous. I mean, look at this, right? This is really, really nice. You have the ability to really change this up however you like. You can actually go ahead and you can add customs, right? So, I'm here with the Crancer group. So I went ahead and maybe this one looks better. You can see I have a custom background where I have my logo attached. So if you want to do something like that, that's a cool option. But again, I just stick, I think this one is my personal, consistent, professional, easy way to use during calls. Really, really cool feature here inside of Teams. One of the other cool things, you can actually turn on live captions. If you didn't know this, this is a phenomenal tool here for accessibility purposes inside of the application. I'm going to, hopefully this turns on here. Sometimes I have issues if you're not the organizer for some reason. I've seen that be a problem, but let me see. Go ahead and select it again. Michael, if you try and turn on the captions, does it turn on for you? I just kind of want to show everybody.
Got it on.
Okay.
Takes a couple seconds.
Yeah, it takes a couple seconds. Oh, there we go. Hold up. I just see the CC. Perfect. All right. So you see as I start speaking, right, it's actually going to use artificial intelligence to catch what I'm saying. It can mirror that here towards the bottom. If you start to speak, you'll notice it'll catch.
Yeah, this is a really cool option.
Right. So you see it catch that Michael's speaking. It'll go back and forth. Andres, you had a question?
Yeah, is it English only or would it butcher Spanish?
Let's try it. Try it. Give it a shot.
Hola, buenas tardes.
No, just English right now. I have never tried that actually.
So we know that Microsoft has on the map the ability to us speak English and someone to be able to go out and turn it on and see it in caption in another language. So we're waiting for that option to be on. So my captions, I'll talk in English, and if you wanted to listen to me in Spanish, it'll actually put the captions in. We see on the board various dialects of Spanish, Portuguese. So kind of cool if you're talking to someone and you only speak English, or maybe you're speaking Spanish and I only want to hear it or see it in English.
Yeah. Additionally, you can actually transcribe it after the fact. So if you recorded the video, right, you can get a transcription. I know for a fact you can definitely do that in different languages. But I think the real time is a lot of components to it, and I think you're right, Mike. I think it's around the corner. I'm pretty excited about that too.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then the other thing, depending on what company you work for or work with, it theoretically will bleep out curse words, dirty words that are out there. I've tested it with my office. I won't test it with you. But if I say something that it determines as a bad word, it will bleep me out, and then it'll put the first. Actually, it doesn't even put the first letter because then you could figure it out. It just puts asterisks in there.
I love it. I love it. Michael, did you want to demo the chips? I don't have any chips by me. I'm not sure if you wanted to just show that really quickly. You have
you know
some.
what you could do is do what you did with your phone. Just play the song.
Okay, let's try that. Okay, so I'm gonna turn it off. Hey, let me show you how to actually turn it on and turn it off. I'll just share my full screen here.
I did eat my chips yesterday after my demo.
So
but you know what?
Go ahead.
I'll turn on. You know what? I have my phone here,
okay.
And let's see if this will let me do it. Oh, of course I'm connected to Bluetooth. Let me turn it off, and then
So the way you'd actually do this, just for everybody, there's a noise suppression feature inside of the settings under devices now. Okay.
So
So
I'm actually playing Moon Dance now. I don't know if anyone hears it.
very, very light.
Yes.
Right.
Very
It's-
light.
And I have a pretty in-depth microphone, so that's pretty loud that I have it on.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, right? It's not going to be absolutely perfect, but I think for what you normally, right? I'm sure it's full blast, Michael. Like you'd be able to hear that really loud, in the speaker. I think it's pretty cool, and that'll continue to get better and better as well. The other thing that we could demo, Michael, is maybe the breakout rooms really quickly. We have a little bit of time if you wanted to see that.
Sure.
So for everybody, Michael, you might want to share your screen. So for everybody, breakout rooms has probably been the most popular question I got asked for the longest time because Zoom had it and Teams did not. It rolled out at the end of last year. The thing to understand though is that only the meeting organizer can actually demo the breakout rooms, right? So if you're the organizer, there's going to be an additional button on the top bar. Looks like 2 squares. When you click on that, you're going to be able to go ahead and start, multiple breakout rooms. So he'll go ahead and
Plus, I
open
got
up.
100 things open, so
Go ahead and just click on my face, Michael. Yeah, there you go.
let it come up. So, guys, I'm also running an advanced preview of things. So, I don't know if you guys have the little hearts and all those kind of things that are out there. These are things that when the meeting goes on, it's in something that's coming out, sort of like Zoom. We won't see animations like cat ears and all those kind of things yet. But breakout rooms is right up here. So the way breakout rooms work, just like you're similar to Zoom, is I'll click on the breakout room. I could tell it that I want to automatically assign, or I'll just show you what the manual looks like.
Wait, hold up. Put 2 rooms. Okay.
It's just going to create the rooms when I go out there.
Gotcha.
So here, I'll just add. I'll manually add a room.
There you go. Perfect.
Come on. So since I'm a team in a team, let me try it once more.
If you click on I think because you canceled it, Michael, like midway, it kind of threw it off. Yeah, just click on the X. See if that'll work.
Yeah, no, it brings me back. Again, I canceled it in the midst. It'll take a couple seconds. Sorry.
It'll throw it
Listen,
off. No, absolutely.
Breakout rooms is breakout rooms.
Yeah,
on
we've
some
seen
of those things that are out there. But again, it's something that's there. Andres, do you want to try a poll?
Yeah, so I was going to ask you about that, Michael. I don't think we integrated the polls before, but you can quickly do that inside of the meeting. I can't add it because I'm not the organizer. But if you just open up the meeting invitation, okay, and let me show. I'll just kind of explain this to everybody. I can show you just a different meeting that I have here. I can share my screen while Michael does that. So let me go ahead and just share my regular screen. So for example, right, let's say I have another meeting here. So I'll just go ahead and I'll create a new meeting. All right, and let's just say I'll just do a test here. And then I'll go ahead and I'll save this meeting inside of my calendar. Okay, so I'll open up this test. What you'll notice is that before the meeting actually begins, right, you're going to be able, before the meeting starts, there's going to be a plus here. And I'm going to be able to add these specific polling here into the actual meeting. And so that when we do that, we can actually send out a poll during the call that's going to help us send specific calls. So Michael just added that in. I can go ahead and click on forms here now. Right, and what I'm going to be able to do here is just create a new poll. So let's say I can go ahead and send a poll here. I'll just say, did you like the training? Right, and then I'll go ahead and I'll add yes, and I'll add a no. And then I go ahead and save this. And what will happen now is I can actually send out this specific poll to the entire meeting. Right, and this poll will go ahead and it will get sent out. And everybody inside of the actual meeting can go ahead and give a response, right? And you'll be able to get a response here. If you go to the chat window, it typically sends it into the chat as well. So you can view the different responses of what people are saying. And so I think this is a great way, for people to go ahead and keep engagement. You can get some feedback from the group. You can go ahead and ask some questions, see what they like, and just really integrate that into the conversation as you're having this meeting. So, holistically, if I'm just bringing all this together, there is a million different functions inside of this one application. There's just so much to cover. I think it's a great opportunity for you to really understand, how can I begin to really adapt to this virtual workforce, adapt to the changes in terms of where, we're headed. I'll tell you, I don't know if you guys heard the news about Salesforce, about how they're moving out of their office. They're only going to have like 1 or 2 floors. They're pretty much going to a remote workforce. I think we're going to see the majority of other organizations continue down that path again. I think working from home for some of us, maybe unfortunately, is going to be here to stay. So a lot of things to think about.
And I will say that even pre-pandemic, we used Teams. We're in maybe 3,000 square feet. One straight line of offices. So you kind of get set in your ways of just chatting back and forth. Someone's on the phone. You want to start utilizing that. We did move all of our documents from our regular environment into OneDrive/SharePoint that's there. As you can see, I got a handful of laptops back here that are in place there. So what happens is when I move from laptop to laptop or room to room or go back to the office, my documents sync with me everywhere. Also, the thing that is, if you are a Teams user, Microsoft, and you start putting your documents into your devices, Microsoft has a really cool application available on iOS and Android platform called Office, which is a great way to get your SharePoint/OneDrive files right on your mobile device, edit it, use it. It's a good front end piece versus going into Word. We were working with a construction company yesterday. The owner has to get everything on his device. He doesn't even have the Max version of the phones. I'm like, how do you edit a file on, a regular, iPhone 12, let's just call it mini, on that. But, gives you a good secure way of going out there and accessing all your files all over the place. So since we've implemented Teams, our guys are closer. We just have a generalized chat that's open called Help Desk, and we're all, I pick on it because we're an all male organization, not by choice, but, every morning everybody checks in, they send a picture of this, at 10:30 in our offices, I would hear the chatter of people saying, hey, what are we going to do for lunch today? Well, now electronically, the guy's like, hey, I'm ordering in from whatever. So we use that. And then business wise, I do all my meetings, all my virtual meetings through Teams. I use it for the camera portion of it. It controls it. I use it for the noise cancellation. Yes, I could use Zoom, but then it keeps a recording, or it keeps the portion of everything that inside my Teams chat. So we've organized things out there. Andre said all the applications that snap in, like Tasks or Microsoft To Do, Planner. All those are part of the subscription as long as you're not using the free version of Teams, meaning that if you're a Microsoft 365 customer, all of those things come to you. I'm also lastly running a new version of Windows 10. It's probably like 4 or 5 versions out. And a lot of people are familiar with Microsoft from Skype. Well, now they renamed the Skype consumer to Meet Now. And we're seeing pieces of this just little chat that's built into the Windows 10 operating system that you'll see over the summer. So, different ways to tie all this stuff together. We could probably spend a whole day on Teams and still not get through it. So it really, start small, just chat, go out there. Other things in the meetings, and I know that we touched on the VoIP stuff. When we sent out this meeting link with everybody, at the bottom of our calendar appointment had a telephone number. Conferencing, just like Zoom, with the free version of Zoom, anybody can connect up. But if you want to provide them a dial-in telephone number, you got to buy Zoom. Well, Microsoft has the same thing that, anybody can connect up to the meetings externally via the internet. Or if you need to add in a telephone number, that's an added per user kind of charge. And the per user is only for the organizer. So it's important to recognize, that all these are great options that are out there, and it all works well together, and not everybody uses every portion of it. So wanted to see if anybody had, questions, anything that we can answer about this.
Was this comprehensive enough, you guys? Did you have feedback? We would love feedback too. Whatever you like. Always open to conversation.
Well, I'm getting the chat pieces, and I really appreciate you guys. I know it's a lot to take out of your day that's in place there, but listen, we do this all the time for the chamber on our own. And I do want to thank Andres over here, because Andres is actually in California, so he barely we're at lunchtime and he's barely starting his day. So we try to get this early morning time that's out there. Believe it or not, you guys are my third meeting of the day. I have a client in Malta, so I started at 4:30. So it was
Love it. Love it.
and I presented it in front of our local chambers, virtual meeting before that. So, again, I'll follow up with all of you, send you guys email with some cool little, tips and tricks. One of the documents that are publicly out there is, meetings, meetings for rock stars, so that you guys could. It's great whether you're using Teams or Zoom or any of the other platforms that are tips and tricks. And on the question earlier about certification stuff, there's so much stuff that are out there on Teams, not only put out by Microsoft. And I hate to tell people to go to public video, but there's a lot of great guys on YouTube that have unbelievable things, that I watch to keep up, because every few days I get an email from Microsoft of what they're changing and the plan. This has been going like wildfire. In about a year of time, since last year this time, Microsoft probably put 5 years of updates into Teams to compete.
Incredible.
So we will be running, I see the question on things. One of the things, we have been running this, Andre, since October. We run these twice a month. We are going to try to do a 2.0 version of this that'll go into a little more high level things, maybe using things like bots, creating forms, getting a little, and all of you will be on our list for, we'll probably call it our Teams 2.0 kind of training. It'll be interactive. And just to give you the little preview where Andres showed, forms for polls, we actually use, we'll hope to show forms where you could actually create a registration form for public, not public consumption, for an event, and show you how through Power Apps and a Teams channel that you can monitor instantaneously people that are responding back to your reservations or appointments that are out there live into a Teams channel. So kind of cool, and talk about some Power Apps. So you guys, we'll keep you, everyone's on our mailing list that's out there. We try not to spam everybody, but we will, when we get that 2.0 version, we'll have two dates on that. So if we have no other questions, I'm going to give you guys back some of your time. I appreciate you guys that were sticking with us, all this time.